Magic is chaos incarnate, a primal, dangerous force, merciless and destructive. Used without the utmost caution, magic is a surefire way to bring about the desolation of the world. It is a science in that a person's ability to tap into it is somewhat measurable, and in that it requires a great deal of focused concentration and the understanding of complex formula to properly harness. While simultaneously it is an art, for chaos exists in every fibre of everything in the world. Stronger in some places, weaker in others. So where do signs fit into all of this? Witches are not inherently sensitive to the forces of chaos, yet they usually possess the ability to effortlessly call upon these physical spells at will. Well, that is the question we're going to answer today. Hey guys, it's Drew here and welcome back to my Witcher lore and mythology series. In this video I'm going to tell you everything there is to know about signs, and why they are so important to witches particularly, becoming a staple of their approach to combat scenarios. As I touched on just a moment ago, magic in this universe is a complicated thing. Mages, priests, druids, and myriad other magical creatures tap into this chaos in their own way. There is no textbook way to control it. Yet for serious sorcerers, it takes a lifetime of study and experimentation to truly map their abilities and how best to utilize them. Magic seems to work on a spectrum. There are beings called sources, Ciri being a prime example, who can truly harness the immense power of chaos. And we see her do so countless times throughout the games and the literature. These are the beings who are the most chaos sensitive, and then it seems as though, depending on the person, the ability to channel chaos into magic varies from one to the next, often accentuated by hard work and research, and of course, intelligence. Those who devote their time to learning magic take form as sorcerers or sorceresses, or perhaps druids, etc. Geralt has met many of these in his time, and we see their effectiveness throughout his journeys. But what about the common man or woman? What about those who do not have hundreds of years to study and master the intricacies of magic? Well, signs are a solution to this problem. While signs only offer a fraction of the power that true spells do, they can be taught to anyone, regardless of their sensitivity to chaos, and that means they can be cast quickly without needing a full understanding of the magical formula that allows it to work. In the words of Yennefer when speaking with a young Ciri about the sign of Ard in the book Blood of Elves, the witches adapted the spell, making use of the fact that it does not require knowledge of a magical formula. Concentration and the gesture are enough. That's why they call it a sign. So while mages like Yennefer probably consider signs elementary, for a witcher who is skilled with a blade and uses potions to heighten their senses and reflexes, being able to instantly cast a spell without a moment's thought is priceless. Taking the time to divert one's attention from the fight to muttering the words of a spell could be the difference between life and death. And with that in mind, a rapid contortion of the fingers into a sign is a very small price to pay for such a useful effect. That is why you will never see a witcher wield a two-handed greatsword or an unwieldy axe. The dwarves may love a giant blade that can cut through flesh and trees with equal ease, but to a witcher, single-handed weaponry is perfect for swift strikes, and to keep one free hand available for casting signs. But now that you understand why signs are so important, especially to those in the Witcher profession, let's talk about each of the 7 known signs individually. And yes, you heard me right, there are in fact 7 documented signs in the Witcher universe, even though we only see 5 of them in the games. Let's start with the ones we do know, the first being Ard. During that same exchange with young Ciri, Yennefer tells us the definition of Ard. The so-called Sign of Ard Ciri is a very simple spell belonging to the family of psychokinetic magic, which is based on thrusting energy in a required direction. The force of the thrust depends on how the will of the person throwing it is focused, and on the expelled force. It can be considerable. The word Ard, as you know, means mountain, upper, or the highest. If that truly is the case, then the name is very misleading, because it's hard to find an easier psychokinetic spell. She then proceeds to refer to the witch's signs as primitive, in typical Yennefer fashion, but in fairness, she is tutoring a true source, and we've seen what she's capable of. Anyway, performing the sign emits a psychokinetic thrust, which can stun, repel, knock down or disarm opponents, as well as blow down less secure barriers. Geralt uses it for all of these purposes, including in his first meeting with the Doppler Dudu. He raised his hand and formed his fingers into the Ard sign, aiming it straight at the tent. The tent billowed up like a sail during a gale, and from the inside reverberated a hellish howling, clattering and lowing of oxen. The tent collapsed. His ability to use it in the middle of a chase through a bustling Novigrad market is a good example of the ease with which signs can be cast. The icon for Ard is very similar to the real-world alchemical symbol for air, and there has been speculation during the development of the Witcher games that this sign could be used in tandem with Igni to summon a flaming wind. This sign would have been called Agni, but it was never implemented. On that note, let's talk about Igni next. Igni stands next to Ard as the most iconic of the Witcher signs, and as I'm sure you've guessed, the sign is very similar to the real-world alchemical symbol for fire. It harnesses the element of fire in a direct, easy-to-use offensive spell. It is comprised of a pyrokinetic burst that can repel and ignite opponents, as well as start fires. It's a great solution for when you want to read a book in the evening but can't find any matches. As a Quen enthusiast, I'll be honest, 99% of my Igni usage involved accidentally lighting candles when looting endless bottles of Alkahest from every building I entered in The Witcher 3. Igni burns foes over time and can even cause explosions should there be any flammable gases lingering in the vicinity of the blast. In the books, Geralt intuitively uses Igni for the essential task of heating a pot of pike soup, and the name Igni likely derives from the Latin word ignis, which translates to fire. He lay down next to Ada's mummified remains, drawing the Yrden sign on the inner side of her sarcophagus lid. Yrden is a tactical choice for the prudent Witcher. Preparation is key to victory, and trapping a monster within the Ring of Runes will inhibit their powers greatly. Yrden has the ability to force incorporeal entities back into their physical form, and to me this insinuates the sign's connection to death and the afterlife. I wouldn't suggest that Yrden has anything to do with necromancy, as such talk is forbidden, and the Church of the Eternal Fire will hunt me down for speaking of such things. But there is no doubt that both aesthetically and in terms of its effects, this sign is reminiscent of some kind of dark sacrament or ritual. The Witcher raised a hand and quickly traced a path with it in the air. The crowd's rumble rose, the stones flew thicker, yet the sign curved their course, pushing them aside. They simply passed their target, protected by a shield unseen. As I said before, signs are spells stripped to their barest essence to enable their rapid use in combat. For the sign of Quen, above all others, such speed is crucial. If erected in time, this magic barrier can block blows seconds before they strike true, turning sure death into extra life. Quen can be used as a subtle barrier, protecting the caster's body, or, if its full potential is realised, it can be used to produce a large spherical shield, absorbing blows and turning it into vitality, before exploding in a damaging, staggering blast. The icon for Quen resembles the alchemical symbol for Earth, and Geralt uses this trusty sign many times throughout his story, including multiple times in the first book, The Last Wish. The last of our known signs is Axii, and while its icon is based on the alchemical symbol for water, it is more related to psychological manipulation and telepathy than anything else. Perhaps the fact that biotic creatures and humans are mostly comprised of water is the reason for this symbolism. Axii has a hypnotic effect on the target, and can be used in a plethora of ways. Geralt often uses it to calm his mare Roach, preventing the skittish animal from spooking. He also employs the sign to persuade people in conversation, and by persuade, I guess a better word would be brainwash. There is certainly a taboo associated with this sign, as common non-magic users do not take kindly to having their free will tampered with. As signs are simplified versions of spells, I do not doubt that Axii is a diluted form of the magic Yennefer is able to use to read Geralt's mind at will. In combat, a Witcher can use this sign as a charm, hexing a target to fight alongside him as a mindless drooling minion, before the target eventually snaps back to their senses and realise they've just slaughtered their allies. And with those 5 signs discussed, let's take a quick look at the 2 lesser known signs. There is Heliotrop and Somme. The former is cast by the crossing of one's wrists and works as a buffer against physical attacks and magical attacks. However, the exact details of the sign's effects are hazy, as the pen and paper role-playing game based on the novels claims the sign works as a shield against charms, spells, sounds, and other energies directed towards it, but it is useless against purely physical attacks. The sign along with Somn was originally intended to feature in the first game, but was later cut from the final product. I think I can understand why. In terms of game mechanics, it does have many similarities when compared to the Quen sign, and in terms of the lore of the world, a sign that requires the caster to cross their wrists is incredibly impractical for a Witcher. This sign will hinder the sword arm at least for a moment, while the other signs were designed specifically to require only one hand. In the books, Geralt uses this spell several times. When he first met Yennefer, when he was fighting Verena, and when he fought against a Vigilosaur. And finally there's Somn, which is used to put the target to sleep, and may possibly also leave them open to some form of suggestion. An unidentified Witcher who strongly resembles Geralt uses this sign in the novel Season of Storms to put Nimue to sleep after meeting her in a forest. It was also used by Geralt in the same book on the mage Sorel Deggerland. If you're unaware, this mage of the Bannard College plays an interesting role in the story of the Unseen Elder in my video on the Higher Vampires. The word somn is likely inspired by the Latin word somnus or somni, which means sleep, and I can understand why this sign is often disregarded. When it comes to making a target open to suggestion, Axii is the way to go. But there you have it guys, every sign we know of in the Witcher universe and why they are so important, especially to the Witchers. In summary, magic is extravagant and ostentatious, requiring great amounts of finesse and intellect to truly harness. Signs, on the other hand, are simple, practical, and precisely effective. No room for art, science, or chaos, just an action in the form of the hand motion, and a guaranteed reaction in the form of the magical response. Signs perfectly sum up the Witcher's approach to combat, and I guess you could say life in general, and that is why they are the perfect tool for any monster hunter. If you enjoyed the video, a like would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching guys, I've been True, and I will see you later.